Let's hit it.
What's up, Mr. Cox? How you doing today?
How you doing, sir? Another day, another 50 cents.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Hey, people, we got a good show today, man. So we're going to jump right into it and then not make you guys wait. Family, welcome back to Gents Making Sense. Space where Black thought, strategy, and storytelling meets the headlines shaping our lives. Today, we're stepping into a conversation that sits right at the intersection of democracy and presidential power. Two Supreme Court decisions that have sparked debate across the country. On the one side, mail-in ballots, the lifeline of accessible voting for millions. On the other side, the White House ballroom, a massive construction project paused, restarted, and now sitting in legal limbo after a Supreme Court administrative stay. These cases are just legal battles. They're reflections of who gets to participate, who gets to decide, and who gets to build. Let's get into it.
Mail-in ballots have been a battleground for years. The Supreme Court recent decisions didn't rewrite election laws, but it did clarify how states can regulate mail voting without violating federal protections. Here's the heart of it. States can set reasonable deadlines for receiving and counting mail ballots, but they cannot create rules that disproportionately burden certain groups, especially when those groups historically face barriers to vote. The court emphasized that voting access must remain consistent, predictable, and non-discriminate. This decision mattered because mail-in ballots are disproportionately used by elderly voters, disabled voters, active duty military, working class communities with flexible schedules, Black and brown voters in the states, and long lines and limited polling sites. Courts didn't expand mail voting, but it did reinforce a principle. States can regulate the process, but they cannot weaponize it.
That's the tension, right? Regulation versus restriction. Every rule can either open a door or close one.
Exactly. For our communities, access isn't abstract, it's survival. When mail-in ballots are stable, predictable, and protected, participation goes up. When they're restricted, turnout drops. This decision keeps the guardrails in place.
Yeah, before we go ahead.
Yeah,
Before we move on to the next segment, I was just going to say, and you say it all the time. You know, this Supreme Court is, you know, I say they have a God complex. There was no reason for them to take this case. And as I said, you say this all the time. They can pick and choose what cases they want to take. They didn't have to take this case because they didn't make any changes. There was nothing in their decision to change the way we currently do mail-in ballots. So they could have said, no, the lower court's decision stands. We're not changing anything with the ballots. Let's move on. But because they have a God complex, they always want someone to see them and what they're doing. They had to take the case so they could come out with this decision. It's just ridiculous. It's indicative of today's society where everybody's me. And the Supreme Court is the exact same way where they want people to look at them when they make decisions as opposed to just doing it.
It wasn't a bad ruling. It just was, in my opinion, like you just stated, it was an unnecessary ruling. They could have went on about their daily work and kept their little 2 cents to themselves. And I think what most of the pundits are saying is not the ruling, it's the decision, how they write their decisions and everything. And so it's just unnecessary, but I'm glad to see that they didn't take anything away. But that thing about regulating, it gives red states and blue states different ways of doing things, and it might be different from state to state, you know.
You know what the Supreme Court is doing. We know exactly why they're doing that, why they're giving it to states. I mean, first you gut the Voting Rights Act. You know, you take pieces of the Voting Rights Act that ensure that people get fair opportunity to vote. And then you turn around and you send how you do mail-in ballots back to the states. And what are they going to do? The states it can't be discriminatory. Really? Okay, so if Georgia decides to change something that's discriminatory, are you going to take up the case and stop them from doing it before an election? No, they're not going to do it, which means that they're going to be able to do it. Mississippi, Arkansas, all these welfare queen states who want to prevent people from voting within their best interest, they're going to do everything they can to change the rules and the laws as far as voting to prevent people from voting. We know they're going to do that. And the Supreme Court just gave them, the kind of the wink to say, go ahead and do it.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. That's it. I don't think there's too much more we can say on it. This is a very short segment because it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't no eye-opening decision. It's the decision to take on the case itself. So let's get started with segment 2, the White House ballroom case.
Now let's shift to the case that had everybody talking. The White House ballroom, that monstrosity that he's trying to build. Here's what actually happened. The president began constructing a 90,000 square foot ballroom, an underground complex, after demolishing part of the East Wing. Preservation groups sued, arguing federal law requires explicit congressional approval for major structural changes to historical federal property. A lower court agreed and ordered construction to stop. The Supreme Court, specifically Chief Justice Roberts, issued a temporary administrative stay, allowing construction to continue while the case proceeds. This is not a final ruling, it's a procedural pause.
Yeah, play with words, okay? So basically the court said, hold up, don't shut this down yet.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did. And, it's ridiculous. So, right, the stay maintains the status quo. It doesn't bless the project. It doesn't say the president has unilateral authority. It simply prevents disruption while the court decides whether to take the case fully. The administration argues the ballroom is a national security upgrade, a secure hosting space for foreign leaders, a modernized bunker and medical facility, essential infrastructure for executive operations. Opponents agree Congress controls federal property, historic preservation laws were violated, the demolition exceeded presidential authority, the project set a dangerous precedent for unchecked executive power. This case is about more than a ballroom. It's about constitutional boundaries.
I want to talk about that a little bit. I want to go back to a couple of points, especially the administration argument. National security upgrade. It definitely is a secure hosting space. Modernized bunker and everything. That part was reworded because at first they were saying they're building a bunker for the secure area for the president and his administration and everything. So when they found out, or I know they knew anyway, when the press leaked or let the general public know that Barack Obama just opened a secure underground bunker, now they want to say they're modernizing another bunker. So we're spending money on taxpayers. They're spending taxpayers' money before getting taxpayers' opinion about it. And the taxpayers are represented by the congressmen and women who are supposed to be able to chime in on this and approve it or disapprove it. So therein lies the constitutional boundary argument from the Congress. It's a fight that Congress should be taking because right now, almost all power in Washington, D.C. has been ceded to the president.
Yeah, that's because you got those Republican cowards in Congress and the Senate that won't do their jobs. Our congressional members have the power of the pen. It's always been that way. That's been written into our Constitution.
Exactly.
But our president and his Republican coward representatives won't do their job. And that's the problem we have. As far as this ballroom is concerned, why is it needed? How many events does the president of the United States have on an annual basis where we need to have our own ballroom on the White House grounds? And not to mention that you rip down part of a historical building to do it. It just goes to what has always been the case with this president is he wants his name on something. He wants something he can say, legacy. When he gets out of office and people say, oh, we're going to the Trump ballroom. That's what he wants. That's all this is about. There's no reason whatsoever that we need to have a ballroom on the White House grounds. That's not what you're there to do. You're not there to party. Mr. Trump. You're there to be the president of the United States. And we've had multiple presidents over the years have events outside the White House. No one tried to assassinate the president. There were no issues. So this is a problem. This is a solution to searching for a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I know this is going to be a problem for years to come because you can rename this thing. It don't have to be the Trump Ballroom. The problem with that is I don't think we're gonna have another president after Donald Trump has left office that's gonna be as petty as he is. So even if they might want to rename it, they might not rename it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Same thing with his helipad. He done put his cornerstone in there with Trump name on it for a helipad, So
The next president hopefully comes in here and deconstructs all of this ridiculous nonsense and focuses on what the president should be focused on, which are the American people, the survival of our country, being able to run a war campaign and be successful in it, and not hire state-run news commentators to be your Secretary of Defense. Maybe a president can come in and show some competence, and as opposed to this president. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point and everything. We're gonna move on and try to connect the two cases and why it's important to us. So, what ties the mail-in ballots and the ballroom together? Power, process, and participation. Both cases ask the same question: how far does the presidential or state authority go before it starts to infringe on democratic norms? Mail-in ballots deal with the people's power, the right to participate. The ballroom deals with executive power, the right to build, expand, and act. In both cases, the Supreme Court stepped in not to decide the final outcome, but to clarify the rules of engagement.
That's the part folks miss. These decisions shape the conditions of democracy, not just the headlines.
Yeah, exactly. Democracy isn't just voting, it's infrastructure around voting. Presidential authority isn't just leadership, it's the infrastructure around leadership. These cases remind us that the Constitution is a living negotiation and we're all part of it.
Yeah,
Go
yeah, you're
ahead.
100% right. And I'll say what also connects this is I'll use a different word, corruption. Because that's
Exactly.
exactly what it is. That's what brings them all together. This ballroom is corruption, as well as what we're talking about as well.
The
I mean, this
ballroom
ballroom
and the mail-in ballots.
and the mail-in ballots. I mean, again, like I said, there was absolutely no reason for the Supreme Court to take this case. They did not have to do it. They do it all the time. They deny cases all the time. There was no reason to take this. But because, again, as I said, they had their God complex, where they always want someone to look at them and they're the kings of the country and their decision, they took the case to be relevant. And that's all it's about. When you got 70-year-old men and women on the Supreme Court, no one cares about them other than the fact that they're Supreme Court justices and they want to have some time. And that's
Yeah.
all it's about. So,
That's about it. That's about it. No reason why they should have been on this case at all.
yeah. All right, so moving along to segment 4, cultural and community impact. For Black communities, these decisions hit differently. Mail-in ballots protect our access. The ballroom case tests the limits of unchecked power. Both remind us that vigilance is not optional, it's generation. Our ancestors fought for access. Our elders fought for representation. We fight for transparency and accountability. And if I could just add one thing, Tony, before we move on that, we talk a lot on here about, this show is for foundational Black Americans. That's who we want. That's our audience, and that's who we want to watch our content and have discussions about it. And I would say to the Black communities out there is look at some of these things and understand what those in this country that don't want us to advance are trying to do. They know that if you don't have the right to vote, they know that if you don't vote in your economic interest, that things can be taken away from. which is why what you see online and on TV all the time are silly things that have no impact to the world or no impact to the United States. This is why they tie you up in reality TV and ridiculous sitcoms, try to keep you laughing. This is why, everything is always fighting. Communities, but on YouTube, all you see are, podcast guys fighting each other and talking about each other. That's what they want to do. People want to keep you disengaged and keep you looking at things that don't matter. None of that matters. What matters is your ability to walk around and not be harassed, your ability to not get pulled over and killed, your ability to go to the voting booth and pull down the lever for somebody who's going to do something good for you. Or, all the stories you see about certain candidates, like the young man up in Michigan that's running for Senate. No one's talking about his policies. People are just talking about the fact that he is a Muslim. Why is that a problem if we live in a country where religion is supposed to be free? But yeah, that's what you see on TV from the news stations and the national news and the local news, is to put stuff out to keep you disengaged, to keep you thinking and talking about stuff that has no earthly good to you. So just be careful and understand what's happening and see through the matrix and understand that there's something behind that they don't want you to see. I just wanted to say that.
For sure. Yeah, all this is mute right now. This is not what the American people are interested in right now. They're not interested in this at all. So they are interested in how gas prices keep going up, how food prices keep going up, how the president seemed to be in some kind of crazy way hurting his own party by doing these what you call on Canada, what you call it? Tariffs.
Tariffs.
Putting tariffs on Canada. Today I found out that putting the tariffs on Canada and Canada firing back was not the only collateral damage for America. China chimed in on it today and said that they were going to do everything that they could possibly do to help Canada out and keep trade open between those countries and everything. So I would be willing to bet that Donald Trump's administration, nobody in there figured that China would chime in on this, They probably just as surprised as I am on it,
All you're doing is turning China into the superpower that they've been trying to be.
Exactly.
I mean, now you're going to give China access to our northern neighbor and everything that Canada provides the United States. Now you're going to give China an access right on our back door. You think that China, the stuff that they're selling, is not going to have devices in it that are spying on us? Do you really think that's the case?
Inadvertently, so you got Cuba to the south that's struggling, but now China got a foothold so you don't have to worry too much about Cuba and Russia now, but now you got to worry about China and Canada, because China is becoming Canada's new best friend. Because we open the door to it and everything. So it's just amazing that we got over what, 400 and some congressmen, senators in Washington, D.C., and this one man is controlling the narrative for our country because the same party has total power and there's nobody that's checking him and everything. And I know I'm just throwing this in. It might be a bad place to throw it in, but I've been thinking about politics as we see it today and how Congress, the Senate, the executive branch, and the judicial branch is set up. And until we stop having this cronyism where if you're a Republican, you got to vote like all Republicans all the time, regardless of what your people, your constituents feel. Or you're Democrat, you got to vote with Democrats all the time, regardless of how your constituents feel. Unless we can break that cycle, we got to look at something where there is always going to be shared power somewhere. And there might be the president of the United States might have the tiebreaker with the vice president or something. But there's going to have to be some kind of shared power to keep from having this cronyism and bogging down the government where we don't get nothing done in a 2-year cycle. Most of the time with politics like it is now, once the president wins office, he's got 1 year to 18 months to make something constructive happen. After that, Congress shut down because now they're running for their office again, because they only got 2 years,
Well, the solution to that is term. I've always advocated for that. Is that there's no reason why a congressman needs to be in Congress for more than 6 terms. I mean, that gives you 12 years. And senators.
Well,
Senators
they
should
give you
not
12
be
years for senators and give you 12 years, 6
12
terms.
years for senators, 2 6-year terms, and 6 2-year terms for Congress. That gives you 12 years, and then go out and do something else. I mean, there used to be a time in this country where most of our representatives and our senators did not want to be in Congress.
They couldn't afford
They
it.
did it, right. They couldn't afford it, and they did it because they felt a duty and a responsibility to their country. Most of them left and went home. They came in and voted, and then they left and went back home to their farms, to their businesses. They did not spend time in Washington, D.C. But because it's so lucrative with the corruption, the rampant corruption that takes place here, is that they continue to do it. They get elected as a representative for 1 year. They walk around and act like they're doing something. And then the second year, they're trying to get reelected. And then senators are focusing on robbing the government for 6 years so that they can become a senator for 1 more term and then leave that and then go into speaking engagements where they make a ton of money. So term limits, stop making it lucrative for these guys to come to Washington, D.C. and get paid. You got 2 terms as a senator, 6 terms as a representative, and then get the hell out of here and let somebody else come in and do it. Until that changes, we're not going to have anything happen here in this area.
Just not. It really isn't. And I just don't think that it's so hard to get term limits done. And I just don't think these guys are going to tie their own hands. It might be easier with the suggestion I have where you're going to have shared power some kind of way. I don't know how it's done. If I knew, I'd have to sit down and think about it for a little while, but I'd probably be one of the richest person around if I could figure it out,
Yes,
So,
sir.
yeah. So anyway, good conversation on those 2 things. We're going to break out a little bit now and talk about some current events and stuff. First and foremost, go to our site at Gents Making Sense YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. We love the comments, especially ones that make sense. If you don't make no sense, we'll just write you off pretty much. We're not here to call people names. We appreciate it if you don't call us names. But if that's what you got to do, you got to do it, But we want to hear from you. We also are on Spoutable at Gents MS. So let's hear there too. So with that said, let's go to another note, Suleiman.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. You go first.
Okay, so I want to talk about a couple things on another note. One of them is the Carmelo Anthony case, the young man, they got the judge that was on the case. They got him thrown off the case and everything. So there looked like it might be a chance for a new trial. But the new judge that was put on the bench threw out that plea also. He said there will be no new trial. So I think they're in the process of trying to get that overturned now. So we'll stay tuned. We'll see what happened with that and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why anybody's surprised. The people in charge down there don't want it to come out about the fact that these kids, these 2 twins, were not the schoolboys that everybody tries to make them out to be. The fact that the prosecution eliminated anybody who looked like the defendant from being on the jury should be enough to overturn it and to give that young man another trial. I would ask any white person here in the United States if that was done to you, where everybody on the jury was Black or Indian or Arab or Asian, and you are a white defendant, if that's acceptable to you. And there's not a single person who would raise their hand. It was wrong. They know it was wrong. That's not the justice system that the United States wants to push around the world. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they did it. And no judge in Texas is going to overturn in this case and give that young man another try. They're not going to do it because too much stuff will come out about how this trial was handled, how you had an incompetent defense attorney who, in my opinion, he might be corrupt as well. And they're not going to allow you to do that. People are not going to allow you to do that because they don't want it to come out. So, you go to the appellate and see if they change, but it's unfortunate. But I don't think that he's going to get another opportunity. I just don't. That's just Texas.
Yeah, yeah. It's an uphill battle and everything. My next one, on another note, I'm really excited about this one. San Diego Padres have new owners. The majority owners are Black. It's a husband and wife team, and I'm trying to pull up their names now. I'll have it in just a minute. The wife, from all indications that I've read, was spearheaded this. Her name is Kwanzaa Jones, and her husband, Jose E. Feliciano. They completed the $3.9 billion sale with the Padres, who hold a 2-game lead in the NL wildcard race right now. And the one thing that the new owner said, Miss Jones said, was, we want to win, and we want to win right now. And so excited, real excited about this. I didn't see this one coming. I don't even know her. I have to do some research to try to find out about her and her family and everything. But I'm so excited. I got a new favorite team now in baseball, San Diego Padres.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about time. I mean, this should have happened years ago. Black people have always watched baseball, always been part of it, and I'm proud of both the husband and the wife for putting it together and getting it done and becoming the majority owner. I think that we should get into that. That's where you got a seat at the table.
Yeah.
Instead of complaining and always, complain about what's happening and what's right or what's wrong. Now you got a seat at the table to ensure that things are being done the way they need to be done. And you could still win and be successful in doing that, and you don't have to sit around and listen to the idiots in our White House talk about DEI, DEI. You can go out and hire and sign baseball players that help your team and your organization be successful. So I hope they do that and set an example for some of our younger entrepreneurs and business people coming out, that maybe we can make some foray into additional leads.
Okay. Good. Thank you, sir. How about you? What you got on another note?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to talk about the baseball thing, but I think we're good. I'll just stick with that for now, and we look forward to seeing everybody again next week.
All right. So thank you once again for tuning in. Remember to go to Spoutable at Gents S. Come on in there and see what we got for you. And then
hit the subscribe button and the like button on our YouTube channel, man, so we can get
at Gents Making Sense. Yeah, we were making some good headways. We want to keep the momentum going. We want to hit some milestones. The next milestone is 200,000 views. The next milestone for subscriptions is we got
1,000.
Yeah, is 1,000. So yeah, so come on, help us out. Spread the word. This is no nonsense, and that's what we do. No nonsense. You might not agree with what we got to say, but we say it anyway. And you got the right to tune in and look at it and give us some feedback. We appreciate that feedback very
Yeah,
much.
and like Tony said, if you don't like it, you don't have to come here. Go watch Joe Rogan or one of those guys. Go watch one of the white supremacy podcasts. We don't care about them. On this podcast, we're going to talk about Black issues. If you don't like it, don't come. Don't listen.
It's our lived experience. It's our lived experience, and that's the only thing we know how to talk about and know how to talk about. We're not saying we're right on a lot of stuff, but we're going to try to give you the facts up front, and then we're going to tell you our opinion.
Yes, sir. All
there
right.
you go. So family, stay informed, stay engaged, stay grounded in the truth. The Supreme Court doesn't just interpret law, it interprets the future. This has been Gents Making Sense. Until next time, keep making sense of the world and keep making history. Thank you, sir. Peace out.
Peace, man.
Okay.